on YouTube? Welcome to Transatlantic Wrestling Talk. I am your host, Andy, joined always by my co-host, Dale. How are we doing, my brother?
And we're bringing it back today, my friend. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Way back. I think this might be the earliest time that you and I have discussed the pay-per-view. We are going to 1987. You and I were 2 years old, or maybe 3. So I'm just going to go 2. Anyway, it's a 2 count here, folks. But 1987 Survivor Series. What night?
So it was on November 26, 1987, which was 35 years ago, at the Richmond Township, Ohio, at the attendance of 21,300, with the tagline of the best event since WrestleMania 3, and it was.
And it certainly was. And the best part about this was that people don't consider this as the main shot that Vince McMahon took on his competition at the time. Now, we could hear all about poaching and everything, but if you ask me, in sports, free agency was always a thing. People always signed wherever they wanted to go. They wanted to be traded to certain areas or certain teams. This is where it really kicked off, where Vince said, I'm going to go straight to the jugular with my competition. How did he do so with that, Andy?
Well, with this one, he just started bringing in the pay-per-views, didn't he? And started really going for it with these events. And you know, it was brilliant from the start. And, you know, the one thing with Survivor Series is we always talk about the big 4. Well, for me, the big 4 will always be the big 4 for the whole reason of Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania have all had an event since their inceptions. A lot of other events have kind of missed an event here, popped it back, come back again, or they didn't come in till very long. But all 4 of them events have all got over 30 years plus of history. And that's what I love about this event. Now, one of my first things I want to say about this event, we'll get your thoughts on this, is back in these early events with the Survivor Series, is they were just Survivor Series matches, as was this one. And I don't know how I feel about the fact of, you know, thinking about this before when I was watching this and I was catching up on it, it was kind of, okay, do you think championship matches and things like that have a place on these pay-per-views, or should it be exactly what it is?
I don't have a problem with one title being defended on this match. If you're going to create a main event, you do it with about 10 bodies in there that want to go head-to-head, that are mixed into some sort of storyline. Last week, we did 1995 Survivor Series, where you had one of the, we spoke about it, Diesel's best match. Brett had an excellent match, and that was the main event where we saw Brett win the world title. But everything after that was, I'm pretty sure, was all Survivor Series matches, and that's the theme. And I appreciate the emphasis that WWE now has with, hey, we're going to put this 1 match down or 2 matches down for Survivor Series. And they're highlighting that, and it should be. I would love a whole card. Like you said, I agree fully. We don't need to put the title on the line. It's not a necessity.
No, and I think with this one as well is, like, what I noticed here straight away was, like, we see the likes of the championship matches all year round and stuff like that, where, like, this kind of felt so much different because it was kind of like, even though you had the champion, you know, Andre Hulk, for instance, you know, we'd had that at WrestleMania, and now it was kind of, we've got Andre Hulk, but they were just part of the story on that main event. So it doesn't really bother me at the fact that they had these 2 going again, and maybe WWE can learn something from this in nowadays, you know, in modern day, where I like the fact that they're going down the route of, okay, it is the old Survivor Series type match, not where it once was, so they're adding the War Games element in. Fine with that, no problem with that at all. And the fact that now we've got Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre in the same match again, you've got Sheamus in there, you've got the Brawling Brutes in with the thing. We've seen these matches, but the fact that we haven't seen them all together, it gives it a fresh dynamic, doesn't it?
Not to take it too into what the modern day wrestling is, but you mean to tell me that nobody's hoping for a spot between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in there?
No, 100%.
And this is what's going to make Survivor Series worth it. They've been promoting the hell out of it. You've had these guys that are working together. I mean, let's face it, Gunther could be thrown in there. It'd be fun, fantastic. But they're doing the right thing. They're righting the ship. I think that the women's division, again, is a little bit in disarray. And they're just, between this damage control thing, it's not really working for me. And just having your champion, think about it, Bianca Belair has been in that consideration for I'm going to be in the stable somehow. And she's been in this stable against Damage Control for about 3 months now. So now it's all in culmination. It would have made sense if she just appeared in this one match. Like what we've seen throughout all of these matches. We talked about Alundra Blaze last week when she was facing all the Japanese superstars, and she had Japanese teammates last week. I mean, think about it.
I think the problem you have is with Damage Control. Now, obviously, I know we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, guys. We will get back to the
hell no.
We'll get back to 87. But I feel like if you look at the bloodline, because of the whole inner story you've got there, they don't always have to have a stable to go against. I know they've put them against the Brawling Brutes now in this one. You'll probably see the Wyatt Six or something at some point as well. But there's them stories, but also when they come away from that, Roman's gone out on his own and had his matches, and then he comes back and there's him fighting in the bloodline and the storylines there to go. I feel like with Damage Control, it's the other way, where there is no infighting. Bayley's obviously the dominant boss. They've got the friends there and stuff like that. So unless they've got somebody to go against, there's not really, it's like having a DX without a Nation of Domination. Or, I don't think it would have worked back in them times. You needed
or a corporation or a ministry, something like that.
Yeah, you always needed that kind of foe. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the problem with Damage Control. There is no foe, and I think that's where they've been lazy. And I think this is a legacy from Vince in the fact of like they threw all Bianca and Alexa and all that together with no real reason of why they're coming together. Oh, they're just coming together to face them. And I think that's something that they've got to move away from now. So, we'll have to wait and see.
We're getting into that with the first match of tonight for 1987, and it just proves that everybody's got beef with each other, and it makes sense. Before we go into that, I touched upon before how this was the direct shot at the competition, and we talked about signings. I want to tell you that WWE or WWF at the time, Vince McMahon, basically said to the cable companies, okay, you're going to air Starrcade. I'm going to go to your competition and we're going to do something else. He took a direct shot the same night. And this is, right now, a lot of, how do I put it? I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers and podcasters that say, oh, what a terrible man Vince McMahon is to do that to other companies. They don't know business. That's why these people, they get woke and they go broke. Vince McMahon is a businessman. He said, I'm going to go with the bigger stars here. This is what he did, and this is how Survivor Series happened, and that's why we don't talk about Starrcade right now, right?
And that's the problem, and that's the whole point, is the fact of he did what he did, but if he'd done it and it didn't really work, 30 years later, it's still 30. What was it, 35? We said before.
Yeah.
Is still going. So obviously it was a good move, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It's like every business is like that. I'm sure if Tony Khan had the chance to do it, he'd do it.
No, he would cry. He cried about it. Yeah. He cried about it because they had an event on a Saturday.
No, but what I'm saying is, if he had an opportunity to stick it to WWE, he would.
He thought that they played nice in the sandbox because he really thought their competition. He would try. He would get steamrolled. You mean to tell me that he would not? He thinks twice. He's not that dumb.
Do you know one thing I said? And it is relevant. So bear with me, right? So when you were younger, so you grew up in the 80s like me, so you'll remember the back end of the 80s, early 90s, right? You'd always had them local shops, didn't you? They were with the shopkeeper and they had all the stuff. How many of them are still knocking around now?
I saw a locksmith the other day.
Yeah, and do you know why none of them are knocking around anymore? Because the likes of Walmart and Tesco and stuff over in the UK, they come out and obliterated them shops by these big supermarkets. Yeah. So, it happens everywhere in business is what I'm trying to say.
Look, and it also comes down to the manufacturers too, because the manufacturers end up getting these big contracts and they undercut the smaller guys. So it's not just big corporations, it's the the middlemen, the manufacturers that have the contracts. So that's business 101.
Yeah, right, let's get into this first match then. We've got Beefcake, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, to be precise. Jake the Snake Roberts, Jim Duggan Hacksaw, and Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, with Miss Elizabeth, defeated Dangerous Danny Davis, Harley Race, Hercules, the Honky Tonk Man, Ron Bass, and they were accompanied by Bobby Heenan and Jimmy Hart. Now, just before we get into this match very quickly, it gave me a little bit of a smile because back in these days, they didn't obviously have the production that they have now and all the rest of it. So first thing I noticed was when they announced out the commentators. Now, obviously, if anybody's been to live events, you know that are pay-per-views or Raw or SmackDown or whatever it may be, they do announce out the commentators, but they actually done this on TV, on the pay-per-view, on this one.
Yeah. And they come out, Gorilla comes out, Jesse comes out with his pilgrim hat. Finkel's there, Dave Hebner, and one of the main referees there. What else? There's an interesting name. We have Craig DeGeorge also doing a little bit of interview segments in the back. Not too bad. I don't think who. Okay, you ready for this? Who was the worst interviewer that you remember?
Oh, I don't know really. It's been some bad ones, hasn't there? Some stinkers.
I think Mike Adamle was definitely one of the worst.
Yeah, he was one of them. I'll tell you who else I didn't like, and I don't know why. Maybe it was because of his voice. I didn't like Lord Alfred Hayes. I never liked him. Couldn't stand him.
You and I are all right. Well,
anyway, I think that's a British thing, though.
It has to be.
Yeah.
You guys are just. I told you that. Aside from speaking with you, whenever Americans hear British people, we think that we're going to learn something.
Yeah, but I think because I'm from the north, obviously from Liverpool, it's like Alfred Hayes has got that very, very southern accent with the very old English. Do you know what I mean? It's like piss off.
So he's a pinky up prick.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, first, hey, let's welcome to the show Harley Race. I don't think we've done a match of his yet.
No, we haven't, have we?
No, and when Harley Race came out, all I just remember seeing or thinking about all the stories I know of him beating the crap out of people and literally ripping out people's eye sockets.
And do you remember the music? Sound familiar?
A little bit.
Jerry the
Go
King
on,
Lawler.
tell the viewers. Yeah.
Jerry the King Lawler's music. He wasn't the first king to have that music.
No. But he would fight Jim Duggan for that as well, for that crown.
He would.
Yeah.
But this match was a solid match. There was nothing really too much, you know. That I like the whole dynamic of Macho Man, and you know, Macho Man's so intense, isn't he? And he was so upset with Honky, the fact that Honky had pushed Miss Elizabeth over, and there was that little bit of a story there. I like the fact that Harley Race and Jim Duggan, I had their part where they ended up scrapping and both getting double count out, you know, which plays into the storyline well for them too. And it was just a solid match, wasn't it?
Yeah. And look, you know, it was one by one, meticulously pinning everybody else between Danny Davis, the bad referee, Hercules Hernandez, who we're always a fan of. I feel like every other pay-per-view we talk about the Herc. But you know, it's double duty for Jimmy Hart today, so you're gonna constantly see him a lot.
I was going to mention that, and I will mention that when we get to the point of it about Jimmy Hart, and I just thought it was quite cool the way they'd done it. But one thing that I do want to say on this as well is I love the backstage segments where they're all together and they're all talking.
And have you noticed how they're all larger than life?
Yeah.
And they're all taking turns with the microphone, and the interviewer knows how to interview people. Mic to the side, lets them speak, then switches over. And the cool thing about Okerlund is the fact that he creates the pace and he knows exactly when to cut people off from whatever they say. But I think like the cue back in the day was for a wrestler to end their sentence, it was with a ha or a ha 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 ha, one of those.
Yeah. As I say, the and all the guys, it was even like I think on this one, Hercules doesn't really speak, but he's just in the background. Joe is really like just like growling and doing little bits, which I'm fine with, you know. When I was made up with that, I thought it was really good. But yeah, the other thing I noticed with this match as well is that it was 1-for-1 up until the third person, and then obviously the baby faces took over there. And we had the survivors was Randy Savage, Steamboat, and Jake Roberts, which I really liked. That.
These guys were pretty over.
Yeah, and I loved I loved as well, like we call it in the UK top shithousery, which was the part where Honky Tonk just walks off and like, no, I've had enough of this.
That's a great heel move. That's a great heel move. Like, hey, nobody pinned me.
Yeah.
It's a nice little detail, and you'll see the tradition continued. If you want to talk about Survivor Series tropes, all of them are in this because this is the first one.
Yeah, and I think also as well as we have a saying over here, but you've probably got the same saying. If he took, what did you have? Because I've heard it with Austin, took his ball and went home, and it's kind of like, this isn't fair now. There's three of yous on to one. I'm not playing anymore, and he walks off. As I say, top shit house, and he really, really good.
Yeah, it's a good wrestling angle right there.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I wanted to get into how you know what? Let's go into the second match because now I remember it. I have it on my little notes here.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I haven't got much to say about this match. It bored the life out of me. And do you know where it started to bore the life out of me was Howard Finkel, straight at the beginning. Go back if you get a chance, guys, right, and watch Howard Finkel announce the first match and then the second one. This is the ladies' match.
And he's just listing everybody in there. But there's some names that we've heard of, and you go,
Yeah.
So you have the Fabulous Moolah, the Jumping Bomb Angels, which is Isuki Yamazaki and Norio Tateno.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, can you take your turn with that?
We've got Rock and Robin. Oh, sorry. You want me to go for Itsuki Yamasaki and Norio Tateno?
I think you said that better. That was good. Excellent. Applaud right there. Then we have Rock and Robin, who had one of the most insane, lunatic episodes of Dark Side of the Ring I've ever seen.
Yeah.
With her on it, and I think everybody was taken by surprise with who she married. It was Jake's brother, I recall.
No, she was Jake's sister, wasn't she?
Yeah. Oh no, she married. We'll get into that another time.
Yeah.
Just a great episode of Grizzly Smith, guys, and Velvet McIntyre, which sounds like a very secure name.
Did you not know that's Drew McIntyre's nan?
Stop.
That's not.
Then we have a super Benjamin Button Dawn Marie, who looked older, and as she grew up, she ended up dating Tori Wilson's dad. Then we have a Donna Christinello. Then the Glamour Girls with Leilani Kai and Judy Martin, and the fabulous, wonderful, sensational Sherry. Sherry looks like $1 million. Sherry
and Moolah looks like a load of crap.
Always did. I was surprised she was the second one eliminated on her team. I thought she was going to get that push.
Yeah.
But was she like given the old timer treatment at that point in her career?
Probably, because she's given it so many times and she just wouldn't go away, would she?
No. And that's when you'll see everything with what's her face with in WrestleMania prior to that, right? Or WrestleMania, who the hell was she facing?
Oh, Wendy Richter. Yeah. When she pinned her, forced her down.
Wendy.
Yeah, that was the one. It was WrestleMania 3, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And anyway, the two that win this is the Jumping Bomb Angels, isn't it?
Nice teamwork. It was okay. Like I said, here's the other thing. And once in a while, my wife walks in whenever we watch this stuff. So she'll take a look. I'm watching Raw a couple of nights ago, and she goes, "Oh, look at the athleticism on Bianca Belair." Then a couple of days later, she sees me watching this. She goes, "This is not Bianca Belair." There's a big difference between them.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see, and that's why I always think, like, at least it has evolved a little bit. So it is what it is. But let's move on to the next one, which is just a big boy match. And just before we do, the one thing that I did want to say about Jimmy Hart is I love it when they're doing the backstage interview and they're going it, and he comes in, and as he's kicking off, he's taking his jacket off, he's putting the half foundation one on, he's changing his glasses. It's brilliant stuff.
This is his third match in a row, let alone of the night that he's managing. And he was managing the Glamour Girl, so he had to quickly switch that jacket to go into the Heart Foundation jacket. No relation there.
Yeah.
And let's put it out there, okay? This was a short pay-per-view with 4 matches, but every match took time.
Yeah.
So you're not going to, there might be some rest spots, but they're still working out the kinks of what to do with each one of these matches as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to take it away with the first team here, with the babyface tag teams, okay? This is a 10-on-10 Survivor Series match, all right? So this is going to be a grocery list. The British Bulldogs with Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid. The Killer Bees, B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. The Fabulous Rougeaus, Jacques and Raymond Rougeau. Raymond was not a good announcer.
No.
He was not a good backstage guy. He was more like the French Canadian announcer. So Strike Force, Rick Martel and Tito Santana, and woo, the Young Stallions, Jim Powers and Paul Roma. Man, oh man. If that doesn't scream 80s, I don't know what does.
No, it was brilliant. And do you know one thing I noticed on this when they were doing their little backstage segment, the way Dynamite Kid was right next to the Russos. And I thought at first, I watched it very closely, and he was slapping them on the back, and he was, he was playing the part, like, you know what I mean? But I was thinking, I wonder how they knew exactly what went on there.
It would have happened a year or two later, if I recall.
Yeah.
Go look it up, guys. There's great stories about how Rock and Dynamite Kid got into a huge fight because he was ripping up his clothing in the bag. You knew that, right?
Yeah,
he was shredding it with razor blades. Dynamite.
Yeah. And then he got a nice nickel in his arm to the face, didn't he?
Yeah. Somebody had enough. All you got to do is stand up once. Like Joey Styles. Do you believe that Joey Styles actually beat up John Bradshaw Layfield or punched him in the face?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because with Bradshaw, I always believe somebody like him, where he's a big guy who's probably used to getting the best of people and whatnot, he's probably not a great fighter because he's never had to.
No, he just makes millions of dollars.
Yeah. Right, on the other side, then we've got Boleshevik, we've got Boris Zukov and Nikolai Velikov. Demolition, Axe and Smash, and I was still so made up they decided to play the Demolition song on this one. We had the Dream Team, Dino Bravo and Greg Valentine. Have you ever seen a team with so much non-charisma, lack of charisma in one team? You've got
my pet Rock had more charisma than them.
I don't know who decided to put them two together because it's just like, oh my God, it's like putting the two most boring things. It's like putting bread and butter. It's just boring on its own. You got the Heart Foundation, Brett and Jim, Islanders, Haku and Tama, and they were Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, Johnny Valent, and Slick, the Doctor of Style.
It was a filled up outside.
And
match.
Do you know what I always say with this one as well? The who's who of heel managers is there.
That's Murderer's Row right there. That should have been one team.
Yeah.
Think about that. Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, and Johnny Valiant, and Slick. Like the outside, people are probably just throwing stuff at him, and they go, "Who are you aiming for?" I don't care. I just want to hit a manager, and I'm going to do it with a cup.
Well, this match was a 10-on-10 match, and do you know what? During this whole match, I remember seeing this, and I haven't seen this in a long time. I have seen it before, but I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I was kind of like 10-on-10. Oh, I can't remember what that was like. I was thinking too much. It wasn't too much.
No, not at all.
No.
This was your attention was grabbed from it, right?
Yeah, it was done so well.
Yeah, and usually you're like, oh my God, that's a crowded house right there.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that one of your British bands too?
Yeah.
Yep. Dream is over, right? Hey now. Anyway, no Dusty in here, but one by one, people are getting eliminated. I'm just going to run through these real quick. So Zukov, because nobody cared about him, was pinned by Tito. Jacques Rougeau was pinned by Axe. Smash ended up getting DQ'd, which I think he took his ball and ran home, right? Tito gets pinned by Jim Neidhart, or Natty's dad. Dynamite Kid gets pinned by Haku. Then we have Greg Valentine getting pinned by Paul Roma. So tons of charisma right there. Bret Hart ended up getting pinned by Jim Brunzell. And Tama, who was the alibi for Jimmy Snuka when he murdered that girl. Oh, wait, did I say that? Anyway, and he got pinned by B. Brian Blair after they put on the mask with a little bit of chicanery. Mm-hmm. This is a 37-minute match that was filled with action. I would highly recommend people to watch this to show you, even with the most 20 people in there, this is how you do a job.
Yeah, I also like the concept as well if that you get pinned, your team is out. I really like that part of it because I've seen some of these matches they've done since where it's like such and such as a, if say for instance, Dynamite Kid, he got pinned, then Davey would stay there. It's like, no, you're part of that team, out you go.
Haven't they tried to do this with tag team battle royals too? And it's hard to kind of get the concept of at that point. I think it's really difficult to actually start doing that stuff and keeping track of it. But this did it because it's one-on-one on the inside.
Yeah.
It's not guys falling all over the place for themselves too.
No.
Really well executed though. First time we called a match with the Killer Bees though, Andy. We have a lot of different teams here that we haven't really called matches on. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. The Rougeos was another one. I don't think we've done anything with them before today.
No, but we did do the Jailhouse Rock match and
I think we need to go back and do some more of these older stuff as well. I think we have.
Yeah, because this was fun.
Well, it was. Really was. Right, okay, so we'll move on to our main event. I know this week's pod will probably be a bit shorter, guys. At the end of the day, it was a short pay-per-view, so...
right before we get into the last match, though, there was a long period where they ended up discussing or bringing on Ted DiBiase with the vignettes.
They did, yes, they did, and I really enjoyed them.
It was everything consolidated into one feature. It was him with Virgil having the kid bounce the ball and then kick the ball away. You know that kid ended up being Ricochet, right?
Yeah. That's it. Do you know what? Funny you should think it, because I like the way they done this in terms of they really like kind of, okay, well, what's the $1 million man thankful for? It's just like went into all this stuff. And do you know what? Simple things like that really, really get me because it's so simple, but it works so effectively. Like, there, $1 million man, what are you thankful for this year? And then it goes into like a highlight reel, and it's like just asking that one question that takes it into the highlight reel is so more effective than just showing highlights.
You don't need a food fight and go home, and like this works out very well here, and this is just brilliant. That's why we have guys now. Hunter's bringing them up. I hate to do it, but we're happy about where the direction of WWE is going. That's why we have guys like LA Knight being who he is now. This is bare bones. He's a fantastic wrestler. And when he brings in Nick Aldis, then it's going to really get to the forefront of, oh, wow, this is going to go back to old style wrestling here.
Yeah, and you've got Cody in there as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's a great point right there, too. So the fourth match here, my friend, is fantastic. This is just history right here. Not only because this is the first Survivor Series, but this is big, beefy, men alert.
Yeah. It's Andre the Giant, Butch Reed, King Kong Bundy, One Man Gang, and Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan and Slick. And who did they face, Dale?
Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco, who was the juiced up Don Morocco. Jesus Christ. Hulk Hogan, Ken Patera, and Paul Orndorff. And who is with Bam Bam Bigelow? Oliver Humperdinck.
Yeah.
Were you a big Engelbert Humperdinck fan?
No.
Okay.
Please release me. But no, this match was absolutely brilliantly done. So brilliantly done. And also, it still got what it needed to out of it. Now, back in these days, a lot of the time it was so predictable. Hogan would win everything because Hogan must pose. Once we got past the WrestleMania 3 scenario, I feel like this is where WWE was like, okay, well, WWF was like, okay, we still need to let Hogan pose, but how do we get there? Instead of just winning everything, it was like, okay, well, we can still do it, but how does he get there? And as long as Hogan got there, then that was all that mattered, really, wasn't it? But the way they've done it here was really cool, was it not?
Because it established and a continued tradition all throughout Survivor Series of the Hope Spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one by one, people are eliminating everybody on the good guy team, and we'll get there when we get there. But like you said, Vince wanted people to go home happy. Whether or not the pay-per-view was still on the air or off the air, he wanted to make sure that a wrestler's going to come out and do basically not the job, but his job was to actually, pose and take those Kodak moments. And that's what he would do right there. I mean, now we're missing those Kodak moments because everybody has cell phones now,
Yeah.
So that's why people don't bring signs anymore. This is a tradition that would start, though, because we're going to go into it. Butch Reed, our first time doing a match with him, just an absolute brute of a guy, huge guy. gets pinned by Hulk Hogan. Then Ken Patera gets pinned by One Man Gang. I think this might be our first time calling one of his matches too.
Yeah.
But I wanted to actually go with Akeem. Did we see Akeem as a Twin Tower? I don't think so yet.
No,
okay.
No.
I just want to say this. Rick Rude and Paul Orndorff just worked their ass off this whole time. They were in the match. They were in the match for quite some time, and it was just impressive. I would also call Rick Rude the greatest atomic drop getter in the world.
Yeah. Rick Rude was a great seller, just in general. Yeah. He really sold things well. And I don't think, I'm not saying that he sold it and all the rest of it. He just sold it enough, but well enough, where it actually looked like it hurt him.
I think the state of Minnesota bred fantastic wrestlers.
Well, do you know what? There was that door, wasn't there? With they were all doormen on a nightclub. And it was, I think, it was Rick Rude, the Road Warriors,
Kurt Hennig, somebody else is mixed in there too.
Repo Man. Smash.
Yeah. Darso. Yeah. There's a lot of people come from that area.
Imagine kicking off in that nightclub.
All right, here's the funny story. I'll go into it real quick because I heard it on. By the way, check out the Click This podcast with Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash was the Berserker, not the Berserker. Who was it? The War Machine, the guy when he had the face paint back in WCW, or Battle Battalion or something like that. And he was bouncing at one of the nightclubs, and he came into work with that face paint on, and he said that for 3 weeks afterwards there was no issues whatsoever.
Well, on this one, let's just go through the eliminations. So we have Butch Reed was eliminated by Hulk Hogan. Ken Patera was eliminated by One Man Gang. Paul Orndorff got eliminated by Rick Rude. Rick Rude was eliminated by Don Morocco, which surprised me. Hulk Hogan was eliminated by no one because he got counted out due to fighting with King Kong Bundy. Then Bundy got eliminated by Bam Bam. One Man Gang.
What an out! Hogan couldn't even take the pin. He's so brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah. And then Bam Bam got took out by Andre the Giant. Were you Soul Survivor Andre? I was made up for Bam Bam here because I seen Bam Bam was getting a bit of prominence, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, what a push, man.
Mm.
Yeah, think about that. That's some push right there.
Yeah. And then at the end of that match, Hogan comes out, hits Andre with the belt. Oh, finds himself in the middle of the ring on his own. Let's pose. One thing I used to love about Hogan back then, right? If Hogan ever come out and cleared the ring for whatever reason it may be, whether he's hit someone over this, it was like there was an invisible force field that stopped him from getting back out the ring and going after them. He'd always stay at the ring, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it was almost like Miss Elizabeth at the fence during the Randy Savage retirement match, where it took her all her strength to get over that so she could hit Sherry.
Yeah.
With that, is that like that's basically the struggle that Hogan would have just to get back into a ring.
Yeah, and then he'd look around and he'd go, and then the music gets hit, and he'd be like, "Okay, then let's go."
Oh, once he heard Derringer, lights were out at that point for anybody in the ring. But like you said, the hope spot is where it really kicked into play, and this is something that, if I remember correctly, they did correctly with Dolph Ziggler against the Authority.
Yeah.
Was that 8 years ago when they reintroduced Sting for that terrible run? But remember, Dolph Ziggler fought the Authority, and it was just, that's a hope spot. That's something that people love. You know, this guy gives it his all here. It's just fantastic stuff. Like, you can't try for this anymore. Really. You know, you don't have to. Everything's kind of in line. But just an awesome way to close out the show. And there's 4 matches. Each match has had the time to take to tell a story here. Yeah. And that's something that I think is brilliant here.
Yeah, that's it. And do you know what? I felt like even if you were just logging onto this pay-per-view because you like W and you didn't watch it, I mean, I know they didn't have a lot of weekly TV then and it wasn't really episodic. But if you look at this, it's like them little interviews at the beginning really did set the tone for the matches that were following.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we envision now when every time we do some sort of every time we do some sort of pay-per-view regarding Survivor Series here.
That's it. Well, that was Survivor Series 1987, guys. Thank you for everyone who's supporting us recently. We really appreciate it. We know we've got War Games next week, Survivor Series War Games, which is why, obviously, as always, we keep to make sure that we keep with the times. We like to keep with what's going on at that time, which is why we're doing Survivor Series now. And then, obviously, when we go into December, we'll move into some others. But
should we do one more Survivor Series before it's up?
Do you want to do a Survivor Series or do you want to do a War Games?
I think the people like Survivor Series, right?
Okay. Go on, then. Hit me.
1993.
Ooh, okay.
I haven't seen it in God knows how long. You know what? Yeah. Let's go 94.
94, yeah. Okay.
Let's go 93.
93. Survivor Series 93. Okie doke. Let's go for that then.
All right.
So that'll be next week, guys. Make sure you tune in, follow us on Twitter, social media. If you haven't already done so, I've noticed we've getting a lot of unsubscribed people watching the channel at the moment. Please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't help us out as a on our route to 100. So please do help us and
like and comment too, guys. We love talking to you guys too.
Oh yeah. Honest to God, we'd love to do like a Q&A one, and as the channel grows, we'll do stuff like that. With our favorite matches, etc. So make sure that you do comment and anything that you want to say on this channel. Also, go over to Transatlantic Wrestling Talk group on Facebook. Join us over there. Loads of guys active on that now. It's getting really busy, and it's a great little group. So make sure you come over and join there and post whatever you want as well. We've got no kinds of restrictions on there like other stupid groups who don't let you post stuff. You can post whatever you want on our group.
Except religion.
Yeah. Obviously wrestling related, but you know. All right, but from me and Dale, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
What are you thankful for, Andy? I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful I'm British. So I don't have to be thankful.
Prick.
Take care, guys.